Good evening and welcome to Current Issues. I'm your host, Hisham Tilawi. Well, tonight, ladies and gentlemen, you probably have not heard of this because actually it had some to do with Palestine and the embarrassment of the United States. So you probably did not hear of it. A couple of days ago, there was a vote at the United Nations, at a United Nations organization to accept Palestine as a full member. That is the UNESCO organization. You probably don't even know what UNESCO is for. Now, UNESCO is an organization that is actually well known around the world. It is the United Nations Educational, Science, and Cultural Organization. It's a huge organization. It has about 180 some members, and plus many members who are observer members, and Palestine actually was an observer member in this organization. This organization is old. It started back in 1945, as a matter of fact. But a couple of days ago, this is, of course, the Riyad al-Malki. He is the Palestinian representative to the United Nations. He was present at the vote, actually, when it took place a couple of days ago, where the United Nations Educational, Science, and Cultural Organization accepted Palestine as full member. Well, of course, anytime you talk about Palestine in the United Nations, you have people who will be upset. That is Israel. Because Israel does not want to recognize Palestine, and it does not want the world to recognize Palestine as a member in this world. So what it did, it tried to actually stop the vote, and when it could not stop the vote at the United Nations, at UNESCO, it actually started pressuring other countries to vote no. Well, one country that it did pressure, that is the United States. Of course, the United States voted no, among other countries who voted no for Palestine to be a full member at UNESCO. Like I said, you don't know what UNESCO is because sometimes you probably don't need it, but UNESCO, actually, it does a lot of work throughout the world in these areas, like we said, educational, science, and cultural. It does a lot of things, but what we're going to talk about tonight, we're going to tell you what UNESCO is, because you have not probably heard about UNESCO. Like I said, many people around the world and many countries around the world know UNESCO because it deals with their lives, it deals with their education, and it deals with science. Now, we're going to show you a little clip to know what UNESCO is, and we're going to come back and talk to you about the vote for Palestine, who voted yes, who voted no, and we're going to tell you if Palestine became a full member of UNESCO, and then we'll tell you how the United States reaction was. Of course, you already know it voted no, but we're going to tell you what else the United States did actually when we come back, and we are going to tell you why the United States voted the way it did. So let's tell you first what UNESCO is all about. Let's do it.
The states parties to this Constitution, believing in full and equal opportunities of education for all, in the unrestricted pursuit of objective truth, and in the free exchange of ideas and knowledge, are agreed and determined to develop and to increase the means of communication between their peoples, and to employ these means for the purposes of mutual understanding and a truer and more perfect knowledge of each other's lives. In consequence thereof, they do hereby create the United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization.
Children who attend school exercise their right to education. Every child on the planet must have access to free primary education. UNESCO is piloting efforts by the international community to ensure that by 2015, education for all becomes a reality. 774 million citizens don't know how to read and write, and 1 child out of 3 never sees the inside of a classroom. UNESCO seeks to end continuing discrimination against girls, who represent more than half the children without access to education. Increasing the number of boys and girls who go to school is not enough. Through our Associated Schools Project network, we want to improve the quality of education at all levels and reduce by half the number of illiterate adults by 2015. We are developing innovative methods to encourage lifelong learning and to train school teachers who are the guardians of education standards. UNESCO also wants to guarantee the right to education in emergency situations, and to do that, the organization rebuilds education systems in post-war regions or those in crisis. In devastated countries, more is required than building classrooms. We have to reduce intolerance and terrorism by reforming school curricula and revising history books, and using creative education methods. We must restore confidence in those who have suffered from the effects of war. UNESCO also orchestrates action by the international community to improve education about HIV/AIDS and how to prevent it. Water as the source of life. Through its exact and natural science program, and its role as Secretariat of the UN's Programme for the Evaluation of Water Resources, UNESCO contributes to the United Nations' efforts to reduce by half the number of people in the world who lack access to drinking water by 2015. Water must be managed in a sustainable and fair way. Water is a precious resource, especially in urban areas and in arid or semi-arid zones. UNESCO works towards the protection of the Earth's natural resources by encouraging the use of renewable energies such as wind power. The organization contributes to raising public awareness of how important and efficient the different forms of alternative energy are, especially solar power. We are constantly building scientific networks for the study of freshwater resources, climate changes, the state of the oceans, and natural disasters. UNESCO is party to the United Nations International Disaster Prevention and Preparedness Strategy.
So that's what UNESCO is, and actually, it's a lot more than that. It really, when it talks about educational, it goes into all over the world, trying to get education into the remotest areas in this world, to get everybody educated. And it deals with water resources, it deals with the environment, it deals with wars, it deals with a lot of things, scientific, cultural, etc., etc. So this organization that has 180 some members in it decided to look at the Palestinians as people and actually recognize Palestine as a full member state in this particular organization. Well, the United States did not like that because Israel did not like that. Listen to this. Out of the 180, I believe it's 185 countries, only 14 countries voted no. Israel and the United States were two of those countries. The rest of those were a couple of them were big countries like Germany. But the rest of them were countries like Palau, Palu, 20,000 population. Other countries like the Solomon Islands, 20,000 population. Samoa was about 20,000. The Solomon Islands were about 280,000 people. All these countries that voted, the little countries that voted, some countries that I never even heard of, Vanuatu, Vanuatu, all these small countries that voted no, voted because they depend 100% of their livelihoods on the United States. So it was not hard to actually squeeze these people and twist their arms and say, look, you're going to vote no. So they voted no. You know, this was a shameful moment in the history of the United States. You have only 14 countries, most of them are small countries in these islands, where no one has heard of, with population of 20,000. Why would the United States put its name, its reputation to protect Israel? How long are we going to continue doing this? Now, some of the other countries that voted no, Australia, Canada, but we know why. Because these are Rothschild establishments. These are the Rothschild establishment colonies, and they voted no. The whole world, 99% of people in the world, they did not vote no. 50 of them abstained. Now, when you abstain, it's like, look, we don't want to actually vote yes, because we can't vote yes, but we're going to abstain. So 50 of those countries abstained. The majority of the world voted yes for Palestine. 83 countries were needed for Palestine to actually win this vote. They got 114. Now, and only 14 countries voted with the United States. And like I said, a lot of these countries, small countries that the United States can twist their arms. Why? Why? Just because Israel did not want that vote. You know, when you have countries like France voting for it, you have many countries, you know, like India, 1.some billion people, China voting for it, Russia voting for it. Many, many countries voting for it. We're not going to go through these countries, but you can say that most of the world voted for Palestine to become a full member, because most of the world actually recognizes Palestine as a country and recognizes the Palestinian people as people in this world. Except Israel, it does not. And of course, if Israel does not want this, then the United States have to actually lose everything. And you know something? The United States lost big time in this vote. Now, this is not to recognize Palestine as a country. That will take place actually next week. The United Nations Security Council, which the United States has a veto power in it, is going to take the case of Palestine as a country. Little confused? It's okay. But next week there will be probably a vote in the United Nations Security Council that the United States actually is a permanent member and enjoys the veto power. There are 5 members who enjoy that power, and the United States is one of them. And the United States already said that it will use that veto power. The United States does not want to use that veto power because it's going to be the laughingstock of the whole world. If the whole world says, look, this UNESCO vote was a vote to test the ground, to see if Palestine has mustered enough votes to actually make it as a country, and apparently it did. The United States voted no at the UNESCO vote, which is a shameful gesture by the United States, but everybody understands and know why the United States voted the way it did. Because it's controlled. It is controlled by Israel. Now we are going to show you the moment when Palestine actually became and was recognized as a full member at the UNESCO conference. Let's do that.
De Grande-Bretagne et d'Irlande du Nord.
United Kingdom abstention.
Tunisie.
Tunisie, oui.
Turkey, yes.
República Bolivariana de Venezuela, sí.
La République fédérale d'Allemagne, non.
Autriche.
Autriche, oui.
Chine.
China, yes.
États-Unis d'Amérique.
The United States of America, no.
Fédération de Russie.
Russian Federation, yes.
France. France.
France, oui.
Israël.
Israel, no.
Now been counted. Here is the result. Number of members entitled to vote 185. Number of members present and voting 173. Number of abstentions 52. Majority required 81. Votes in favor 107. Votes against 14. Ladies and gentlemen, the General Conference has thus voted to adopt the draft resolution and decided to admit Palestine as member of UNESCO.
So I had some of the numbers wrong, but I was very close. Like 185 members in this organization. Those who showed up that day, 173. And the abstention was those who abstained from voting, 52. And you can rest assured that those who abstained, the majority of them wanted to say yes, because they did not say no. And France was actually an unusual player here, because France was saying no, and then they said they're going to abstain, and then when they knew that the votes were in for Palestine at the last second, they switched their vote and voted yes. Well, their vote was welcomed, because France is actually a supporter of Israel, because it's in Europe. It's considered having Zionist influence, just like everybody else in Europe. England actually was a very shy, abstained. So it did not vote no, it abstained. Well, because we know what Cameron is. He is a Zionist puppet, but even with that, they did not want to bring England into saying no. Because the whole world, the majority, you hear politicians in the United States saying the world community, that the world community wanted this and wanted that. Yeah, the world community is not the United States. When you see the United States going across the ocean to destroy and kill and murder, and they tell you the world community told us to, they're lying. Because the world community spoke. And the world community said yes to Palestine, no to Israel. And if you notice, when the Israeli delegation cast its vote, everybody was laughing. When the United States said no, you did not hear not one single, not even the Israelis clapped for them. They did not applaud them. The world says yes to Palestine and the Palestinian. We in the United States should not be any different, just because Israel controls our politicians. Why do we say they control our politicians? We're going to come back and tell you why, but before we go, let's see the reaction from the United States and what the United States actually decided to do. It decided to withhold monies, 60 million of them. $60 million were due this month in November, and the United States said, we're not going to give that money because you voted yes to Palestine. So they want to punish the United States. This is another shameful moment, that the United States decided to punish this organization, and you've seen what this organization is doing in the world and what it does. So the United States decided to withhold $60 million, not pay its bill, its dues, but yet we find $10 billion a year, $10 billion a year to give to Israel. Why? Because they own us. They own our politicians. Let's see the reaction from the United States. And now pay attention, because this Matthew Lee, I think he's with Reuters, he's a darn good journalist and reporter. Just pay attention, and it feels sad and shame that we in the United States would have to face such a moment when we think we are the superpower, when we think we are good people. We have moral values. We are good. Let's see how good we are. Let's do it.
Today's vote by the member states of UNESCO to admit Palestine as a member is regrettable, premature, and undermines our shared goal of a comprehensive, just, and lasting peace in the Middle East. The United States remains steadfast in its support for the establishment of an independent and sovereign Palestinian state. But such a state can only be realized through direct negotiations between the Israelis and the Palestinians. The United States also remains strongly committed to robust multilateral engagement across the UN system. However, Palestinian membership as a state in UNESCO triggers long-standing legislative restrictions which will compel the United States to refrain from making contributions to UNESCO. U.S. engagement with UNESCO serves a wide range of our national interests on education, science, culture, and communications issues. The United States will maintain its membership in and commitment to UNESCO, and we will consult with Congress to ensure that U.S. interests and influence are preserved.
Does that mean that you have stopped effectively today contributing to UNESCO?
It does.
It does.
We were to have made a $60 million payment to UNESCO in November, and we will not be making that payment.
Sorry, 60 million?
60 million.
And that is what, a part of a tranche of the total of 80?
Correct.
All right. So this is not particularly a banner day for U.S. diplomacy. If you count the abstentions, you had 159 countries did not vote the way you did. Only 13 did. That would seem to suggest that these countries don't agree with you that this is such a big big problem. Those countries included France. They included numerous members of the Security Council. What happens to them now that you're punishing UNESCO? What happens to these countries that also that voted to in this regrettable way that is going to undermine the peace process?
Well, those countries obviously made their own national decisions on this vote. We disagree with them. We made clear that we disagree with them before the vote. We make clear that we disagree with them after the vote. We also make clear here today that we want to continue our relationship with UNESCO, but as we said before this vote, and as we have had to say today, legislative restrictions compel us to withhold our funding now, and that will have an impact on UNESCO.
Well, going back to what you said in your opening, you said that this was is regrettable, premature, and undermines our shared goal. Whose shared goal? Who shares this goal other than the 13 other countries that voted with you? Yeah.
Countries all over the international system share the goal of a Palestinian state in secure borders.
How could they possibly do something that you say is so horrible and detrimental to that process?
Yeah.
How can you still count on them as sharing this goal?
You'll have to speak to them about why they made the decision that they made. We considered that this was, as I said, regrettable, premature, and undermines the prospect of getting where we want to go, and that's what we're concerned about.
Okay, and how does it undermine exactly? How does it undermine the prospect of where you want to go?
The concern is that it creates tensions when all of us should be concerting our efforts to get the parties back to the table.
The only thing it does is it upsets Israel, and it triggers this law that you said that will require you to stop funding UNESCO. Is there anything else? There's nothing that changes on the ground, is there?
Our concern is that this could exacerbate the environment which we're trying to work through so that the parties will get back to the table.
How does it exacerbate the environment if it changes nothing on the ground, unlike, say, construction of settlements? It changes nothing on the ground. It gives the Palestine membership in UNESCO, which is a body that the U.S. was so unconcerned about for many years that it just wasn't even a member.
Well, I think you know that this administration is committed to UNESCO, rejoined UNESCO, wants to see UNESCO's work go forward.
Actually, it was the last administration that rejoined UNESCO, not this one. But I need to have some kind of clarity on how this undermines the peace process, other than the fact that it upsets Israel.
Again, we are trying to get both of these parties back to the table. That's what we've been doing all along. That was the basis for the President's speech in May, basis of the diplomacy that the Quartet did through the summer, the basis of the statement that the Quartet came out with in September. So in that context, we have been trying to improve the relationship between these parties, improve the environment between them, and we are concerned that we exacerbate tensions with this, and it makes it harder to get the parties back to the table.
Since the talks broke off last September until today, how many times have they met together? With all your effort?
How many times have the parties met?
Yes.
I think you know the answer to that question.
Correct.
It doesn't change the fact that
So
we
how
all are
can things
committed
get
to
worse than they
trying.
already are?
Matt, I think you're engaged in a polemic here rather than questions.
Yeah.
Saeed, please.
So just because it upset Israel, and so that's why the United States has done what it did. Now, what is this control over the United States that Israel actually exerts and actually has? How did it do this? Now, what I wanted at first to actually pause that little thing because I wanted to show you. I don't know if you noticed, like on the right-hand side of the screen, there was a flag, and in the middle of that flag, there was a round piece with a bunch of stars actually making another star. Why don't we play that maybe without sound, and then just look on the right side of the screen. Look at that star I'm talking about. Let's go ahead and play that one more time, just to show the flag on the right-hand side of the screen. And go ahead. Okay? See that little flag right there where the six-pointed star is? Now, that's the flag on the right-hand side. In the middle of it, you have a bunch of stars, and it's making that six-pointed star, which is basically the star of Israel. Okay, that's good. I just wanted to show you that little thing there, which is, by the way, it's on the dollar. It's on our flag, government flag. It's on a lot of things. And so that's the six-pointed star that actually Israel considered its flag. It's amazing, ladies and gentlemen, that before you hear of the candidates for any office in the United States, they would have to go and get stamped and blessed by Israel. Herman Cain could not wait to go and actually take his picture by the Wailing Wall, just like most of our presidents and most of our congressmen. Everybody very much did it before they even became candidates, and even after they became president, they went there to actually be blessed by no one else but the Jews there in Jerusalem. Now, the Jews in the United States, they're less than 2% of the population. Now, we're not making this racist. We're not making it religion. We're not anti-Semites. As you know, I'm a Semite myself. So I cannot be anti-Semitic or anti-Semitic, okay? So those of you who's going to say, oh, he's anti-Semitic, you know, this charge of anti-Semitic, it's scary. Now, I don't care about it because I'm not a politician. I don't have a big job that I'm worried about being kicked out of. Like Helen Thomas, of course, when she said something about Israel, all of a sudden she had to go. Like that poor guy with CNN, I believe, what is it, Chavez or something? It'll come to me, Sanchez. Because he said they're all over the place. He was talking about Jews controlling the media. And he said they're all over the place on CNN. Did not finish not even one day. Like many of them. Because they do control. They have huge control in this country. Political and media. Let's throw this. Sarah Palin. She went there. All of them. They all go to Jerusalem. Now, she went there, and they probably told her, you know what? We don't know. Maybe it's not your time. Maybe they are saving her until all these Republican candidates maybe do their things. That's Hillary Clinton when she was a presidential hopeful, when she was running against Obama. She thought, well, her advisors said, why don't you go there and maybe the Jews will like you. She did. Obama went. Bill Clinton went. Bush went. All of them. They all do. But Cain, he went there when Glenn Beck, back in August 25th, we told you about Glenn Beck wanting to do this thing for Israel. And he took a bunch of, actually both parties, especially the Democrat, they told their people, hey, don't go with this Glenn Beck thing, because he wants to do it for the Republicans. So mainly Democratic congressional or Congress men and women, I don't know how many of them went, but many of them did not go. But actually few of the Republican congressional members, Congress members, and their members of Congress and their staff went. They paid for it this time because it was Glenn Beck doing it. Cain, his advisor said, hey, look, if you are, this was like in August 25th. You haven't even heard of Cain at that time. So August 25th, Cain decided, you know what? I'm going to be a candidate for the President of the United States. I'm going to go and kiss the wall, show the wall. Because you have to go there and kiss the wall and write some little note and squeeze it in the cracks there. Put the picture of Cain kissing the wall and put in his notes, his prayers. Yep, he's squeezing it. I guess he said, look, if you in there, make me a president of the United States, and I promise that I will do everything in my power to serve Israel. So he put the little skull cap on, even though he's a Christian. But he put the Jewish cap. They all put the Jewish cap on. But he said, hey, look, you know, apparently this is the God that makes it. This is the God that makes it possible. It's that God in the wall. And he's right. Because that's the God that makes it possible for our presidents to become presidents. That's why Obama had to go there. That's why Clinton had to go there. That's why McCain had to go there, and he even wore the skull cap. Show all of them. Just show their pictures for the people to see. Skull cap, he's not Jewish, he's Christian. He's not Jewish, he's Christian. He's not Jewish, he's Christian. She's not Jewish, but she did have the Israeli flag in her office, actually. What's her name? Sarah Palin? Okay? They go there to be blessed, not by God, because God is not in that wall. Now, why is it they degrade themselves that way and they go against their religious beliefs? Because, you know what? Jesus came not to pray to that wall. He came to change that. You remember the Pharisees? He fought the Pharisees. His religion came to fight these Pharisees, and he told you, you cannot mix old wine with new wine. But yet we see our Christian politicians being blessed by the Pharisees. That's who these people are. And is that okay with you? That's why this country is the laughing stock of the whole world, because of what we are doing. We are being controlled by these people. How? Through AIPAC. Every one of them, they go to Jerusalem, and there's two pilgrimage places they go to. The Wailing Wall in Jerusalem and AIPAC. And we have pictures. We've shown you many of these pictures, but we have a lot of pictures with AIPAC where these politicians actually made it to the AIPAC conference. He went in there. That's the man who controls the world right now, Benjamin Netanyahu. If he tells the United States to go, that's Olmert, the old prime minister of Israel. It is this organization, AIPAC, who actually rules the United States, who actually, and if anyone wants to debate this, let's debate it on the floor of the United States Congress. You want to debate AIPAC? Let a congressional hearing do this. That's where we solve our differences. That's where we solve our differences, as in Congress. Let's debate AIPAC in Congress. Let's debate the influence of a small country. Less than 2% of the population in the United States are Jewish. And by the way, many of that 2% don't agree with the policies. But we have a Likudnik group in the United States that is controlled by the Likud party in Israel, that is controlling many of our politicians. That's who controls the United States. It's not you. It is not the Constitutional Convention that created this country that is running this country. This is not the country that was actually organized or established by the Constitutional Convention. That's what we need. We need another one of those meetings that took place back in the 1700s to establish this country, to establish a country that is ruled by the people, but that same political system that these founding fathers put in place is no longer serving the people in the United States, because they did not envision, and actually George Washington did tell us not to get entangled up with foreign countries. What we're doing now, we are entangled with the country called Israel. Okay? That's what we have. We have a country that is entangled with a foreign power, and that's what George Washington told us not to do. The Constitutional Convention is our only salvation, because right now, what is going to take care of us in the United States, it's not going to happen at the ballot box. We cannot change our political system through the ballot box. It does not happen because they control that. They control everyone that is going through it, because they have to be stamped on their behind by the Israelis in Jerusalem, by the Jews in Jerusalem, before they become our congressional leaders here, before they become our presidents. And if anyone wants to debate this, let's debate it in Congress. That is the people's house, isn't it? Don't you say that we have a democracy in this country? Then let's do it in there. Let's open up this thing about AIPAC. That President Kennedy lost his life wanting to debate this. It was not called AIPAC at that time. It was called the Zionist Organization of America, ZOA. He died fighting that organization because it was a foreign agent. He wanted ZOA to register as a foreign agent, because as a foreign agent, you cannot do the things that AIPAC is doing to our Congress, to our elected officials. They cannot do it because it's a foreign power. But let's open this. Let's solve this problem once and for all. Have AIPAC register as a foreign agent and see what happens. See what happens. I'll tell you one thing, ladies and gentlemen. You will not be able to solve this political problem in the United States, because we are under political occupation by Israel. The only way we can solve this is by doing another one of those constitutional conventions that took place over 200 years ago. Let's put that picture so people can remember and envision the only salvation that this country will have. Because that was a salvation during that meeting. That was supposed to be a conference to talk about the Articles of Confederacy that was present at that time in these United States. Instead, they spent from, I believe, March to September, or May to September, working on this. They did not leave that hall, that room, until they came up with the Constitution of the United States, until they came up with a vision of how this country is to be ruled. They did not know that in the end of the 20th century and the 21st century, the beginning of the 21st century, that same system they put up is going to be occupied and controlled, bought, and paid for by money. They did not know that. They did not envision that. Otherwise, they would have put things in the Constitution to prevent this from happening. So no, ladies and gentlemen, we will not have a salvation in this country until we decide to get out there and demand a constitutional convention so we can put things in there in the Constitution that our government cannot be purchased. That if we as people are going to actually elect our people to represent us, then it needs to be free people electing free leaders. Now, we're not free people. They might tell you we are, but we're not. You know, they give you this charade of debate between the candidates that they already gave them its allegiance, and it doesn't matter who wins the United States presidency. He is in their pocket. Show me one who is not, and I'll show you an unelectable man. I'll show you one. Ron Paul. He's a Republican, but he knows the game, and he talked about the game, and he wanted to change the game, and he's still a candidate. But you know where his presidency is going to go. You know where his candidacy is going to go. I'm glad for Ron Paul, because Ron Paul is making you think. Even though the media does not give him and does not count him as a serious contender, but he is. He's the one. See, he's got nothing to lose. He's got nothing to lose. He won a congressional seat many times. He's been in Congress for what? About 24, 25, 30 years? I don't know. They got him out one time. The first time he won, they said, well, wait a minute, we can't have this kind of people in Congress. They got him out, but he came back. And his constituency have elected him every time, and he's running on these issues that we talk about on this program. Yes, that's what Ron Paul runs on. He runs on abolishing the Federal Reserve Bank, something that Kennedy lost his life trying. He's running he's running on issues, and he tells you we don't need to be entangled with foreign powers. We don't need to be paying Israel $10 billion because they use that money to control us. Now, you know how serious the media is going to take him. Now you know the story. Now you know what it's going to take to actually, this Occupy Wall Street, sure, it's good, but look what they're doing in Oakland. Now, I don't know who actually started this violence in Oakland, California, that is. Now, the media is going to go all over that. They're going to show you that these are nothing but a bunch of idiots on the streets. Bunch of thugs, gangs. That's not what we were saying about the people on the streets of Syria and Egypt and Tunisia. And those people there in Syria, they're even killing government officials there. The people on the street, they're shooting at the army, they're shooting at the police. But yet the United States government is saying, hey, look, be careful with these people. Don't kill them. Don't arrest them. Don't hurt them. Yeah, but they're shooting. Over here, they're not even shooting. They're not shooting here. Imagine if somebody shoots something here. What are we going to do? Do like what Syria's doing? Of course. It's going to be exactly. Has this country killed its own people? Of course it has. Those who oppose it, of course it has. Randy Weaver's wife, a sniper shot her. We've seen people killed in this country. But that's not our issue for tonight. Our issue for tonight is how to liberate this country from the stranglehold of Israel. How do we do this? And, don't say the ballot box, it doesn't work. I think we have established who approves our candidates. Okay? So we know it's not going to work. The only thing that's going to work is actually changing the Constitution, constitutional convention. But you know how hard that is. I mean, it's not as easy as saying, hey, look, let's redraw the Constitution. It's extremely, but that's the only way. That's the only way, or we will not be liberated. We will continue to be the laughingstock of the world, because we are. We have a couple of small countries to go along with us, and we say, oh, Palestine, you cannot be a country. Some of these countries it wasn't even 1 million people putting all these countries together. You and Israel standing alone. You and Israel standing alone in the country, in the world. And that's horrible. That is horrible. The whole world knows. Just take 2-3 countries who voted for Palestine, and that's 80%. When you think about India, when you think about China, what, 3 billion there out of 7? So like 2 countries have half of the world. Add Russia, add most of Africa, most of Asia, most of Europe. I'm telling you, if you take out these small countries who voted no for Palestine, and the only reason they voted no because they depend 100% of their livelihood. They don't have any economies in those islands wherever they are. These are, 20,000 population of this Palau, 20,000, and we think we have countries in the world voting with us? No. But why are we allowing this? Why are we allowing this bastard country called Israel to actually ruin our reputation? They're taking us, they want us to go and hit Iraq. We went and destroyed Iraq, killed 1 million Iraqis because Israel wanted Iraq to be destroyed. Israel wanted Libya to be destroyed. We went there. Why? When is this going to stop? When is this occupation, this Israeli Zionist occupation of our political system? Because when you occupy and control the political system, that means you control the leaders. The leaders are the ones who decide who to go and kill. History is not going to be nice with us. History is going to say about those people in the United States who allowed, they were the strongest, most richest country in the world. They allowed a foreign power to ruin them because we are ruined. Politically, reputation-wise, economically, we are ruined. And history is going to take a look at us and say, why did these 320 million people, with every power they have, with all the money they had, they relinquished that? Why? Why did they allow these bastards in Jerusalem, called the Zionists, the Israelis, control their lives like that? I don't know, but you can start answering these questions as you think about these questions of why we're allowing them. Good night. That's all we have for you. We'll see you next week.